It's Justin, JP, Justin Panito, whatever you want to call me. It has been a long time. I think the last device I reviewed was the ZTE Blade V8 Pro, if I'm not mistaken. I've gotten a lot of other devices since then, not just this Blade X Max here. Um, I've gotten the LG G6, gotten the Galaxy S8 Plus, which I'm using to record this right now. I have the Dex dock that I want to review. I have the Gear VR with controller coming in today that I want to review. I also have the ZTE Court smartwatch that T-Mobile sells exclusively that I want to review. I've had a few other little devices in between that I no longer have. I wasn't going to review anyway, but I'm just severely behind. I'm not able to do a lot of these. Like my Project 13, I do work, and I do work over the weekend. Those are days that I work. Those are part of my work week. Today's Wednesday, so this is actually my Sunday because I go back in tomorrow. I actually recently switched jobs, which is why I've been so busy. I worked at the regional airport here in my area, and now I'm going back to one of the casinos I used to work at. So for a couple of weeks, I was actually working at both of them. Like when I was off from one, I was at the other, and when I was off at the other, I was still working the rest of my notice at at the one I was already at. I'm not one to burn bridges, in other words, but I have here, and the reason why I jumped to review the Blade X Max here instead of the G6, the Galaxy S8 Plus, etc., is because there's not a lot of review videos on this like there are with the others. There's already a million of the others. And this device has been out. It'll be a week on Friday, and it's a fantastic device. This is basically the successor to last year's ZTE Grand X Max 2. And shout out to Magic Tech. Magic Tech Reviews. He is actually he I think, if I'm not mistaken, he is a manager for a Cricket store in his location wherever he's at. And we knew this device was coming out, and here it is. This device is awesome. It really is. It's a Grand X Max 2 successor because it's on Cricket wireless, obviously. But it's also a successor to the Z Max Pro. This device is very easily unlocked. I did it for $2. It has band 12 for T-Mobile. It has band 12 for T-Mobile again. And Metro PCS. So if you have a Z Max Pro and you use it on T-Mobile or Metro, you could just as easily, unlock it for $2 and still use it on those services. It does have band 12. Now, of course, you may still lose like HD voice and stuff like that comes baked into those firmwares, just like Cricket, who also now does HD voice. It's baked into its firmware to where it'll only, do it on, when you're talking to other AT&T customers, for example. But of course, like the Z Max Pro and unlike the Grand X Max 2, this does have your fingerprint sensor in the back. But you'll notice that the back is very, very, very similar to the back of the Grand X Max 2. With the metallic little shine to it. It looks almost glass, even though it's plastic, but it is really nice. I don't know if you can catch that in the light, but it is really nice. And basically, instead of the secondary camera that went right here on the Cricket model, have the fingerprint sensor now like the Z Max Pro. But remember, the Z Max Pro had that flat material on the back, which was also nice. But I like this a little bit more. It's more classy looking, but it's not as slippery as it looks either, though. So, it feels really good in the hand. It is really thin. It is 6 inches, just like the Z Max Pro and the Grand X Max 2. The physical specs are really the same. It has those same capacitive keys on the bottom, no on-screen keys, 1080p Full HD. You're getting a Snapdragon 435 as opposed to the 617. A lot of people probably would have said that they would have liked to have seen the 625, but the 435 is still an upgrade from the 617. You're getting an Adreno 505 graphics chip, so the graphics are going to be way better. You still have 2 gigs of RAM. I mean, the processor itself minus the graphics chip is actually clocked a little slower than the 617. If I'm not mistaken, it's 1.7 versus 1.4 or 1.5 on the Snapdragon 435. But, the upgrade comes in the graphics chip. Which, and even then, you're going to have a hard time even noticing, just as well as you're going to have a hard time even noticing the the drop in megahertz per core. You're never going to notice it, and if anything, it's actually going to help you with battery life. It's not going to affect performance in any way. The 435, I think, and I've used it on a couple of other devices, is almost as stout as the 625, and I know a lot of people love the 625, including myself. It's very snappy, very, very, very snappy. This does have the gyroscope, by the way, too, for Google Cardboard. You'll notice I have Daydream installed, but of course I kind of side loaded it. It's not official or anything, so you don't have to ask a bunch of questions. I don't have it actually working yet. But this does run Android 7.1.1 Nougat, the latest and greatest. It has let's see which security update it has here. If I'm not mistaken, it's last month's. 2 months. March. It has the March security patch. Not bad, honestly. Like I said, this thing is very snappy. The screen is gorgeous. It's 1080. It is IPS, but let me show you another thing I love about this that would really rock if this was AMOLED. This is something you don't see with these phones a lot of times. And it's stock Android, and I don't know why it's left out, but I love this feature. This phone has the ambient display feature, and I love that. I mean, it's almost like Moto Display or the always-on display that you get with your Galaxies, like your S7s and after, your LG G5s and after had it. I love that it's, with that ambient display and the size of this device, it's really reminiscent to me of the Motorola Nexus 6 with the fingerprint sensor on the back, which it should have had anyway. It even feels like it. Of course, it feels more like it with the back from the Z Max Pro. But the Z Max Pro, again, though, didn't have the ambient display. And that was a feature that's actually been available in stock Android since 5.0. Even ZTE has been guilty of not including it until just now with 7.1.1. Because even the Axon 7, which has the latest Android update, doesn't even have ambient display. I know 7.0 didn't. But I did see that 7.1 recently came out, so don't quote me on that 100%, but I know with 7.0, when it brought Daydream compatibility, it still didn't have ambient display. And being that was an AMOLED display, it would be perfect on that phone. Perfect. 2 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs internal. That's an upgrade from the Grand X Max 2, which only had 16 gigs internal. The Z Max Pro did have 32, so this is pretty equal. Again, it's a successor to the Grand X Max 2 because of the carrier, but it's also a successor to the Z Max Pro. When the Z Max Pro successor actually does come out on Metro, if there is one planned, that will probably come out in August sometime, which is when the original Z Max Pro came out, August 1st to be exact, because I remember getting it, and on that day, it was a Monday, because that following Friday, on the 5th, was when the Idol 4 came out on Cricket, and I also went and got that. That's weird that I remember that, but I do. I would imagine that the Z Max Pro successor will be, a lot, it will be even more feature spec, have more features to it. But anyway, I'm going to end this video right here on this note right here just to kind of give you a spec rundown. This device is awesome. I implore you to pick it up, especially if you need a good phone. This is a great phone. It's $150 and it's worth that. For new port ends, it's only $100, and you can't beat that. It's just like the Z Max Pro, but it's an even better phone, and it should be. It's 6 or 7 months newer, so it should be. But I hope y'all enjoy this. If y'all have any questions, hit me up on the comments. I'm getting caught up. Glad to be back. I missed y'all. Thank y'all so much for the support.